Hello everyone, today I want to address a concerning issue that I believe is slowly unraveling the American middle class. Many people are unaware of the extent of this plan. You may have heard about inflation rates being reported at 3% or 4%. In fact, recent data shows that U.S. inflation increased by 3.7% in August, surpassing expectations. If you've been to the grocery store lately, you might have noticed that prices of essential items have soared by 20%, 30%, or even 40%. Consequently, more and more Americans are opting to eat out rather than cook at home due to the increasing costs of groceries. Furthermore, you may come across unemployment figures indicating a 3% or 4% rate. But if you take a closer look at your friends and acquaintances, you'll realize that many of them hold multiple jobs or side hustles. This prompts questions about the accuracy and credibility of these reported numbers. Today, I want to shed light on the reality of what is truly happening, because something huge is underway. This is not mere speculation or a plan in the making. It is already a fact, a law that has been set to be implemented by 2025. Over the next 15 months, we can expect a gradual erosion of the middle class in America. This is something that individuals need to prepare for, as it will likely lead to the greatest wealth transfer that we have ever witnessed. This process began in 2020 and is now gaining momentum. Over the next 2 years, the situation is expected to become even more volatile. Now let's delve into some statistics. According to recent statistics, the prices of essential goods have been rapidly increasing. Fuel costs have risen by 65%, while the price of eggs has jumped by almost 50%. Airfare has also seen a significant increase of 36%, with butter and margarine following closely at 34%. Even items like bread have experienced a noticeable 15% price increase. These numbers are alarming, as it is rare to find any item with a price increase below 10%. This surge in prices has had a profound impact on American consumers. Many are struggling to make ends meet, with some resorting to extreme measures, such as selling their blood to cope with the rising cost of living. It is clear that the average consumer in America is facing unprecedented financial challenges. In an attempt to address these economic issues, the Federal Reserve has implemented various strategies. Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, has openly stated that his goal is to increase unemployment and reduce consumer spending to achieve a stable and gradually declining economy. However, recent headlines reporting a 4.9% growth in the economy over the summer seem to contradict these efforts. These headlines imply that the Federal Reserve will need to maintain higher interest rates for an extended period to maintain economic stability. This contradictory situation raises interesting questions and concerns that have not been widely addressed. For instance, there have been discussions about the need for slower economic growth to combat inflation. Experts speculate that increasing the Fed funds rate from the current 5.3% to 7% could result in mortgage interest rates reaching approximately 10%. This potential spike in borrowing costs and mortgage rates would have a significant impact on the average American's ability to afford homeownership. It is estimated that if mortgage rates reached 8%, only 22 million Americans would have the means to purchase a home, compared to the 50 million who can afford it now at a 3% rate. Under these circumstances, it is crucial to consider the implications for the housing market. With the increase in borrowing costs and a potential decrease in the pool of buyers, there could be a surplus of housing inventory. This oversupply, coupled with a decrease in available buyers, may cause considerable downward pressure on housing prices. They claim that car owners currently have the highest rate of falling behind on payments, setting a new record. As a result, foreclosures have skyrocketed, creating what they call a crisis. At first glance, none of this seems to make sense. However, upon closer examination, the truth becomes clear. They are deliberately causing economic erosion by implementing a plan known as the Diesel 3-End Game, which involves a complete restructuring of bank lending. This plan is set to take effect in 2025. The data they present seems contradictory. On one hand, they highlight the growth of the economy at 4.9%. On the other hand, they emphasize the increase in foreclosures by 34% in the third quarter and the record high defaults on vehicles. By creating this narrative, they can put more pressure on the economy. Consequently, when everything ultimately collapses, they can use the excuse of needing to act with more responsibility in lending practices. They have already passed this legislation into law on October 23rd. Goldman Sachs recently led a supposed small business campaign against the new bank rules. This campaign, however, seems to be more of a public relations tactic rather than a genuine effort to help small businesses. In reality, big banks like Goldman Sachs stand to benefit from these rules, as it will drive many regional banks and credit unions out of business, allowing a handful of large banks to gain control over lending and the economy. The plan will become effective in 2025. As stated, it is crucial for people to pay close attention to these developments in order to position themselves and their businesses for success. By being less dependent on bank lending and having access to liquidity, individuals can have more options and ultimately build wealth. Goldman Sachs claims that 10,000 small business voices are calling for the Federal Reserve to ease its grip on small businesses. According to them, limited access to capital remains a recurring issue for many small businesses, particularly those owned by Black and Hispanic individuals. However, it is important to note that liquidity is not solely an issue for specific racial groups, but rather a concern for all small businesses, real estate developers, and investors in America. Our entire economy is built on banks lending money into existence. It is through leverage that billionaires and real estate millionaires have made their fortunes. While they may claim to support the small guy, the reality is that banks like Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America will profit greatly from acquiring other banks in the coming years. The Federal Reserve Bank's plan is to assert that while large banks have managed to thrive even with high interest rates, small and regional banks, which play a crucial role in supporting local businesses, have struggled to strengthen their balance sheets and may find it difficult to adhere to new regulations by tightening credit. This aligns with my previous warnings about credit tightening. Regardless of whether you are a small or large bank, the current economic climate presents concerning signs such as record-high car loan defaults, increasing foreclosures, and a rising number of credit card defaults among subprime borrowers. In fact, almost 10% of subprime borrowers are failing to make credit card payments. Additionally, the burden of student loan debts is evident, with an estimated 43 million loans due, with an average monthly payment of $508. Considering that 2 out of 3 Americans do not have $400 in emergency savings, it is clear that many will struggle to make these payments. Consequently, we can expect an increase in loan defaults, prompting further credit tightening and paving the way for the implementation of Basel III regulations. The Basel III regulations, also known as B3E, represented by a schedule set to take effect in 2025, will significantly alter the regulatory capital regime for U.S. banks. This will affect both the largest banks by modifying their regulatory capital and imposing stricter requirements on regional and mid-sized banks. The implementation of these rules has faced opposition from advocacy groups, who argue that they will disproportionately impact communities of color. The current interest rates are the highest they have been in the past 22 years. As a result, small business owners are experiencing greater difficulty in accessing capital, as indicated by survey findings. Regrettably, the world is transitioning into a new normal, which will prove to be tougher for most individuals. While we may long for the more affordable cost of living, lower rent, and happier times of 2018 to 2019, we must now prepare for the challenges ahead. It is essential to ensure that our businesses and employment are positioned appropriately for this new reality.